you use?
Because they go together.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
second
Yeah, so that's, so salt and calcium often leave together. So a person with very high salt diet often will have a lower bone density. Now we're talking years and years and years of doing this. Any other questions? Okay, so what is your job? Enough water to follow the salt and get to glass. Right? That would be one step better.
And where do you find a glass water bottle?
I just buy seltzer water or any kind of other sparkling water or Mountain Valley water, and I take the label off or leave the label on. Then this is a soda saver, and that's what I use.
Do you just wash it in the dishwasher
This little soda saver, yes.
with the glass?
The glass, you basically only if you just regurgitate, you go back and forth. Okay, in the water bottle. Then I would suggest washing it. But it's my germs, right? And also, there's nothing in there for them to grow. If it was a rare gator, like she was saying, something would be growing in there. So yes, you wash it, you rinse it out with some soapy water, you go a couple of times, and that's all.
I know a lot of parents would get that for their babies. Baby bottles that are glass baby bottles, because we even microwave we expand and let out bacteria and board. I just thought that was weird when I heard saw
With
that.
the plastic, Yeah, I know.
No, they use the glass ones because the plastic
Yeah,
ones.
we always use glass.
Yeah, but a baby bottle really shouldn't go in the microwave, they should go in a little pan of water on the stove, because it's a little
That's
slower.
why I don't have a baby.
That's really, so you can figure it out.
The only reason I don't have a baby.
Does anybody else have any more questions for Dr. Overburg?
What is like the most stable oil when I cook a fried egg in? Because I've heard like, oh, don't cook with that oil, it's bad, it might go rancid.
Any saturated fat or any monounsaturated, so saturated would be butter, okay? It will be coconut oil or coconut butter, monounsaturated, olive oil, almond oil, macadamia nut oil, canola oil, all of those are fine. Peanut oil,
Because I bought some pure olive oil, I think it's like refined, can you cook with the unrefined, or, because I don't understand.
I rather if you go to high heat, then you would be better off with a refined olive oil.
Yeah, that's what I got.
If you use the green olive oil, it has more particles in there, it has a lower burn point or flash point because the other things burn off. So if you use green olive oil, the extra virgin olive oil, use less heat.
What was the first oil?
The first oil,
Or saturated?
saturated, that would be butter or coconut.
Oh, coconut.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes me think of one other thing. It was olive oil. Never mind. Just like, I lost it. I had it for a moment, but it was
Okay, it'll come back.
I always thought that coconut oil was supposed to be good, but then I can't remember where I heard something that I thought was reputable saying that anything that you eat, if it has lists coconut oil, or they use coconut oil on the ingredients list, if that's bad.
That was because we had this major fad, that saturated fat was causing heart disease. And actually what they find is more and more research showing saturated fat does not cause heart disease. What does cause heart disease are hydrogenated fats. So when they went away from the animal fats and they went to the vegetable fats, okay, that's when we really got trouble because vegetable fats would not sit up solids. You couldn't make a donut with vegetable oil unless you hydrogenated vegetable oil. And what they found is that hydrogenated fats actually raised the bad cholesterol by itself, whereas if you use the saturated fat, you would raise your total cholesterol, but also would raise your good cholesterol. They would go together.
And coconut oil does not hydrogenate, right?
No, coconut oil is a saturated fat. You can't hydrogenate. You can only hydrogenate a polyunsaturated fat or a monounsaturated fat. So a polyunsaturated would be like safflower, sunflower, soybean oil, and all of those. And if you expose them to high heat, which we don't create that heat on a stove shelf, but high heat like Frito-Lay does when they make French fries or their chips, then you can make trans fats. So when the rulings came from the government that you had to list your trans fats on the label, Frito-Lay was way ahead of everybody. They purchased all the sunflower and safflower oil up for 2 years with the futures market, so nobody else could get the jump on them. And most of their food has no hydrogenated fats in it. And anytime you see something that has a plant name in it, and it's a cupcake or something that is solid, you know there is some hydrogenation involved because it would fall apart. You would have a cupcake, you would have a little pancake, right? So So, so with coconut oil got the bad rap because it was a totally saturated fat. But coconut oil has some really nice things. It's the precursor, or it's the building, it's what we use to make MCT oil, medium chain triglycerides. Medium chain triglycerides is what athletes use for energy. It's a real nice way to add extra calories. It has caprylic acid, which takes care of yeasts and molds in there. It has another fatty acid in there that takes care of viruses, lauric acid. So it's a very nice oil to use. And you can get coconut oil, you can get coconut butter, you can get coconut milk. All of those are fine. The whole thing is, what I look for is that when somebody comes and they give me a diet history, is that you don't eat the same thing 3 times a day, 7 days a week. I want to see some variety. Okay? Then because you need variety. So coconut oil is fine by my book. And the hardest part is that a reputable source that you mentioned, okay, on the internet stuff doesn't die. Okay, so I see references that I saw 15 years ago and they're being circulated again as brand new. Or they come from Europe as something new, and it's the same old story. So it gets very hard on the internet. So you have to go back to the basic chemistry. But what did the no-fats craze do for us? Okay, as a country, everybody got fat. Because when you don't eat fat, you're hungry sooner. And when you're hungry before it's lunchtime, what do? You go to the snack machine. And what do you get at the snack machine? You get unhealthy food. What do you do in the middle of the afternoon? So when they took all the fat out of our foods and everybody started eating zero-fat foods, everybody got fat. And diabetes. And this is all is going up. Yeah, too many. Not that carbs are bad, it's just an overabundance of them.
So what do you think about New York trying to ban additional salt in your meals in the restaurants?
There is 10% of the population who are very definitely salt sensitive and their blood pressure will go up. The rest of the people don't have that. So it is, but on the other hand, salt gives you flavor. So really what they would like to do is to lower the amount of salt in our prepared food, slowly and slowly. Because what happens is we have taste buds that we require a certain amount of salt to be happy. They have conditioned us. And so we can decondition ourselves by using less salt. You can do that yourself, stop using salt and buy no salt vegetables. What's the consequence of no salt? Okay, that's our major source of iodine. So now we get thyroid problems, okay, because we don't get iodine unless we eat saltwater fish, or like the Japanese, we eat seaweed. Anybody here want some seaweed? Okay. Unless it's sushi. So that now what happens is we don't get iodine. So this is where the multivitamin comes in, okay, or a multimineral with iodine in it, because then you get thyroid issues, and if you have thyroid issues, you get foggy brain. Okay, and you lose your hair, and you get fat, okay, and you get constipated, and you get unhappy, depressed. All of the signs of a malfunctioning thyroid. So there's always, things swing too far one way and the other way. Any other questions? Okay, now we'll pull out the quiz. You have a question.
Tell them about your wellness profile and why you do that.
Okay. If you go to my website, you can always see what the blood test that I do. And I don't do the standard blood test because I do a wellness profile because I look to see how well you are. What doctors do is they do an insurance profile. What will insurance allow? So they will test you for 3 liver enzymes. I will go for 5 or I will go for 6 because I want to have a better picture. Now, are some of those liver enzymes that I check for bad? Not at all, because your iron status to look at those. I look at uric acid. So there's a range. I look at phosphorus. Most of the time they don't look at it. They look at calcium. Guess what? Your blood calcium for all of you over here is just fine. And you know why it's fine? Because it's maintained at the expense of your bones. Are your bones fine? I don't know. You can't tell from your blood. But if you look at the relationship of the phosphorus to the calcium, you can tell. I do check for a magnesium. But usually your magnesium is at the expense of your what? Your muscles. You get ticks and twitches and so on. It is magnesium. You get cramps. It's magnesium. So I look to make sure. I look for things that ordinarily are not looked for. And if you work with Dr. Suleiman, he will run that panel because that's what I say. That's what I base part of my nutritional consultations on. For all the other things that I talked about, whether it's herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals, I use other tests. Digestive problems, and you can see them all listed on my website. So you have an idea, you can take them to your doctor and you can see if your doctor will run them. So all of those you can do. The key thing is, you need to have tools to find out what are you missing? Why did I end up where I am? Okay? How can I reverse what's going on? Unless you're happy where you're at, then I say stay and do what you're doing, right? That's the bottom line. Any other questions?
When buying multivitamin, who should be going with iron versus without iron?
Everybody gets with iron unless you're menopausal and you're a male. Okay, males after puberty generally eat enough food, enough meat to where they don't need any extra iron. Females after menopause, they don't need extra iron either. So, but you get iron readily from meat, so red meat is the best source. B12 too.
So without iron after menopause, with
Yes.
iron before.
Before menopause.
Do you recommend a particular brand because there's such a variation in potency?
I use several brands, actually several. I use 15 different brands in my own practice. Generally what happens is there are many good companies out there. So part of what I do in my first visit is you always bring in what you're taking. And I have people who bring 4 bags or a suitcase because they try all these different things. Part of what I do is teach you how to read labels. What is better, what is worse. Okay? And then I teach you how to use what you're already invested in, because many people have hundreds of dollars worth of vitamins and they don't know what they're taking or what they're using them for. And then I will make some other recommendations. So I just see what would fit you. And what, part is what I have experience with.
And what about fish oil capsules?
I love those too, but I think what you should do with fish oil capsules is you should take the capsule, put it in your mouth and bite it. And if it tastes like fish oil, fishy, then we're good. But if it has an off taste, it's no good. Then spit it out.
It should be sweet, fresh fish oil has almost.
No, the E is basically an antioxidant. It does, basically, the people who sell supplements are in the same business as the people who sell food. They want to be different from somebody else. So if you see a fish oil with a vitamin, does that mean it's better? Not necessarily. Maybe the fish oil is inferior and they have to put an antioxidant in it. Or maybe it's just a marketing thing to say, well, I have this and you have only that. I'm a better deal.
A while ago on CNN, there was a report of a health show, and this one company had a booth there, and they got thrown out of the show because what they did was they had done research and found out how many companies with fish oil capsules had too many PCBs, which are toxic. And about half the companies that were showing at the show were listed on that thing, so they got thrown out before the show opened, but now it's on the web, and they list the names of the companies, and it's big companies that we know.
Yeah.
So you all might want to look on the web at that. It's quite interesting.
We concentrate toxins and put them in our fatty tissues because if we can't get rid of them. And nowadays, how good is fish oil? It is so good that the pharmaceutical companies now have their own fish oil, and there's a prescription pad that a doctor can give you fish oil. Okay, and the cost of it is between $120 and $190 for the same thing that you can
For a
buy a
month.
good brand for
1 month.
$25. So why is our health cost so high? Oh, I don't know. I guess somebody's just doing strange stuff. Okay,
Well,
I
we
think
want
it's
to
your turn.
thank you again. Wonderful information.